Thank
So
you.
we are in the same boat, brother.
Thank you so
Let's
much.
salute.
I'm in the boat.
Let's salute to you.
Okay.
I'm kind of in the boat where Modi came from.
And it was a pleasure, to see it on the big screen. We've always heard about this film before it came up on, on the channel in YouTube when it was restored. And ever since we wanted to sort of have an opportunity to screen it like this. So thank you for coming all the way and for bringing this.
No, I came from Navroze.
And looking at this, it was feeling like, how could you predict a camera-loving king, and then the dam and it's easily the 90s moment, right? The dam and, this movement against the dam and the evictions and the demolitions and then the color red disappearing, all this together, it was very, although you said that it's a funny film, but it really sat grim. Tell us about the making of the film, because it was a long time.
So basically what we were trying to do was look at the history of independent India. So about 40 years, 1987 is when we started writing it. And so there are a lot of references which young people will not necessarily identify with, but obviously there are 2 prime ministers that we had and the third one. So all those references were very much there. And for us to look at contemporary history, a dramatic narrative structure was not going to work. So we just kind of put together a lot of elements from various kind of performing arts and just said, let's see if it works. So there are a lot of references to Gujarati poetry, a lot of references to Hindi cinema, of course. And the other thing was that we wanted to create an imaginary country, but also refer to the real country. So that's why the use of documentary footage. And that's something I've always done, mix fiction and non-fiction, even in terms of shooting. So, which is where, of course, Navroze was a huge advantage for the film. So basically, the script was there, we wrote it, but the documentary footage, some of it came after we started shooting. We really didn't know what we would get from archival material, so that also was a bit of a... So we tried to use actually elections footage right from the 50s to the 90s.
The election motif keeps coming back, even in the end of the story, because...
So that's VP Singh who was elected, and he actually said what we used in the film. So he wears that cap, and so those were the references that we used, and the fact that he signs that banned dream thing in a bathtub, which actually the emergency was signed in a bathtub apparently. So we use those kind of references. But and as somebody said, you said, it seems to be more relevant now than it was then, probably. I don't know.
No, but to imagine now that the NFDC would fund such a film in the language Gujarati, and this whole thing would be just impossible. So I was wondering, because I wanted to always talk about this, of course the NFDC was not a very ideal thing, but it sort of helped the parallel cinema and experiments to some extent to find some sort of germination. Although I would also want to ask you, why was this film never released, and what was the role of the government bodies in that matter?
It was a NFDC loan film. It was not funded by NFDC to start with, and I have to say I paid back the loan. So, but they had theatres. They had about 12, 13 theatres in India. There were 2 in Ahmedabad, but somehow that was a different department, so they just would not give me even a week to show the film. And commercially, of course, nobody was going to pick it up. So that was the only advantage that in a sense, is that Doordarshan was starting a new channel called DD Metro. So they actually picked up the film. And I think they aired it about 10, 11 times. So a lot of people in very remote areas have seen the film in those days. So that's
Would it be like termed as a regional, so-called regional language film? What was the category in which Doordarshan had screened this film?
No, it had won awards in Gujarat. So they pick up award-winning films. So that was the only.
So that was the only way that people actually saw that film?
In those days, I had a very, very bad copy. We had done a telecine, so it was a very bad copy. So that had circulated a lot. But I refused, I tried not to pass it on because it was just horrible. But yeah.
How did you manage to get the restoration done, and while you were doing it, what were you thinking as a filmmaker after so many years?
Honestly, I was not thinking, it's just that Ad Labs was closing down and they had the negative, they said take the negative. So once you took it out, it was going to rot completely. So I just, at that point, which was 2017, 18, I just got it scanned. And then 2019, I got it restored in Prasad Labs. So, but no, I just said do it. There was no, I didn't really imagine that it was going to get this kind of traction.
So what happened after that? What are the kind of screenings that this film?
So it's gone to 3 or 4 international festivals in 3 continents. It's gone to Amsterdam, IFFR. It's gone to some other couple of festivals. So yeah, it's traveled, and it works even for non-Indian audiences. The few screenings that I attended, it conveys what it's trying to say. And I think today we live in a world where the reality has become very close to what the film is talking about. So
real life is more of a satire than even the film. So we might just get sprayed by onions anytime we walk out. So that's a sad state of affairs. And the media that you portrayed has gotten far more dangerous for all of us. But I just wanted to also ask about, this kind of experimentation that you did back then with the form. There's absolutely no background music. Almost, like in the very canonical sense of the term. Then, of course, there is newsreel and there's documentary footage, and then there is theatre. Almost scenes, So, tell us a little about how that evolved. Because satire, of course,
there are 40 songs. So
yeah, exactly. So many songs of so many different kinds.
Yeah. So there was no. I personally am very uncomfortable with background score. Maybe I don't know how to do it. Well, my documentaries never have background music. So I prefer effects, and if I need to use music or sound that I've shot on location, I'd prefer that much rather than compose for films.
And tell us a little bit about Navroze's, your association with Navroze, because here I think there were scenes from which we also have some of the stills, no? The Alang stills.
Yeah, he shot.
The Alang stills were there, no?
So he actually landed up. That was one of the last shooting that, and we were driving. We drove from Diu to Alang. We reached there at about 1:30, and it disappeared. And we had to shoot the whole song in 4-5 hours. So he said, "I'll come back only when I finish shooting." So he finished his stills that he wanted to, then we shot the song. So yeah, that song was shot in 2 hours.
So tell us about your association and friendship with Navroze and the experience of
the first film that we did was in 87. It was in Kutch. There was a famine kind of situation in Kutch, and we made a film on the pastorals of Kutch. And after which we worked on about 10, 11 films that I made, and then I kind of worked with him on a couple of, or 3, 4 projects that he was doing. So, I mean, that's work. But yeah, we just became very good friends, and there was a lot that we spoke about, a lot we kind of talked about work otherwise. And he was a very funny person. I don't know if you, extremely funny. He had a million stories to tell. And so I actually made a film which he hasn't shot, but he's in the film. They 3 of them motorcycled around the country, 55 days, 17,000 kilometers. So I partly shot that and made the film. So one of the projects where he's not shot anything. Yeah.
So you're shooting Navroze, that's a
Yes.
role reversal.
But in this film I had to do that because he wanted to act, he loved acting. So he's there in about 8 or 9 scenes. And then couple of scenes, he would move into the scene after half the scene is done. So I would take the camera and he would walk into the frame. So that also I've done. And he wouldn't trust his assistant to hold the camera, so I had to do it. So, yeah.
I would like to open it up if any of you would like to ask something or comment. But you have been in Calcutta, you've lived here.
I've
no?
lived here
In
at
your-
75. I spent 2 years here. And then I've been working. I did a couple of films here. So, yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I have no question, but I have a comment.
Please.
Very short. I will not take much time because there may be many more persons who make comments or put some questions. My comment is that I had the opportunity of seeing the film, the famous film, Hirak Raja Deshe, in the year 1979.
Yeah.
How I remember my son, one of my sons, I have 2 sons, he was born in 78, and he was a child when we were inside the hall. I could not see the film properly because he was crying, and I had to come out of the hall several times. So I seen the full film in a second, another occasion. But my point is, I have an impression that in this film there is a subtle resemblance with that famous film, Hirak Raja Deshe. Although I do not think that the 2 films are exactly identical, but there are many similarities. And the intention of the filmmakers of that famous film, all know, and this film, they are, I think, it's identical. In that respect, I just expressed my impression. I give congratulations. And my final impression about this film is, in one word I can express, it is magnificent.
Thank you. Thank you
Nothing
so much.
less than that. This film is magnificent. My age is 88 plus. I have seen several famous films which has been screened in India and abroad. I had the occasion. I am a very much favorite of enjoying my time with performing arts, theatres and films and musical conferences and many others. And may I declare here, with your permission, that I belong to an active political party also. and I am doing something at this back end of my life for the purpose, the same purpose for which you have taken so much trouble for screening this beautiful film, magnificent film. That is my
Okay, well, thank
everything
you.
what I wanted to tell.
Thank you so much.
I have no questions.
Okay, thank you.
Sir, yeah, it's quite a long standing question. How did you shoot that song, How I Have? What's the technique behind it?
How did I shoot it?
Yeah,
That's
the
a sec-
visuals, it's a single
That's
shot.
a secret.
Oh, sir, please.
No,
Some
it's a fire brigade snorkel that we got access to. Ahmedabad those days did not have high-rise buildings, and they were going to give permission for 10-storied buildings. So before they gave that permission, the fire brigade had to get a snorkel which could reach 100 feet. So we got the snorkel.
The music is extremely charming, charming and hitting. Please tell us something about the, lyrics, the composition, and the tunes, everything.
So the lyrics, the person who wrote the script wrote the songs.
Okay.
So that's part of the music director is quite a unique music director, Rajat Dolakia. He's done music for Om Darbadar, he's done music for Mirch Masala, for Holi, and several other films. And so, there were 40 songs, and we just did not have the kind of money to do it in a professional studio. So he just made a studio in my father's basement. We just put razais actually to, and I had a very small digital encoder which could record just 2 tracks. So all the music, most of it, a few we did in the studios, but were done there live, because there was no way to punch in and out. And it took him about 30 days. So every day he would give me a freshly burned kind of CD, which he was doing it while we were shooting actually. Somehow it didn't happen before that. So, yeah.
Subtitles are also fantastic.
Sorry?
Subtitles.
Yeah, so Ruchir.
Match. We can't understand the Gujaratis, but the way it's been translated in English, so rhythmic, it's excellent.
So Ruchir Joshi, I think some of you know about Ruchir.
Okay.
And Sunil, another friend of mine, so they kind of...
Hi.
Yeah.
I have a question. So you were just talking about your wanting to move away from a realist narrative, and of course the way you made the film, you are drawing on a lot of local performative traditions as well as musical traditions. So I just wanted to ask, what in your mind, what did it add to the form of the film? Why did you think that was important?
Sorry?
Why did you think that this move away from a realist narrative towards a more, let's say, something that's drawing on pre-existing traditions of music and theatre? Why was that important for this film? And of course, for your way of understanding cinema.
Well, one is that I was comfortable doing this rather than doing a story. And if you do a narrative dramatic story, then the references have to be probably restricted. It has to be a much more linear kind of narrative, probably. And we just wanted to move out of anything that was possible while the film was being made. So, you can go onto something, comment on something and come back. And things like that. So we thought this was the easiest and the more useful form for what we were trying to say. A lot of things you couldn't, if I was doing a narrative dramatic structure, I couldn't have definitely used the kind of archival footage that I was using. I couldn't have possibly, unless I located that film in a particular time and then just used archival footage of that time. So yeah, it was a fantasy, it was a fable. So one could take license to do things which you could not otherwise.
Also, probably one of the reasons why it stood the test of time. I mean, why people want to see this film again at this time.
I would think so.
Yeah. It's not about one particular or specific, head of the state or anything like that. Because, I mean, this returning motif of election after election was something that stayed with me when I was watching.
And it happened. It happened by the 90s, And everything the film says, I mean, the elimination of red, which was started by Manmohan Singh. It was not. The dam had happened before that, and Gujarat, of course, suffered the most because of that. And so it was rooted in actual histories.
Actually, quite a bit of you, the question you actually answered, in a sense that I really felt that it's like an urban folk in the form the film you built with very kind of, the poetries and the songs almost holding the fragmented narratives of this thing in a very interesting way. And that's where it actually fantastically triumphs over the conventional dramatic narrative. That's a great achievement, I think, in the film. And another thing that I really was amazed by is it's at the same time when, there's also a sea change was happening in the art scene. It's also the time the late capitalism was just starting here, probably when the film was made. It's made in the beginning of 90s. Yeah. So I was just thinking that there are a lot of this, like when you look at the kind of thing was happening with Sehmat and this, after Sardar Hashmi's passing and all of that. And then suddenly I see that kind of a very street theatre-ish flavor in your, it kind of, film very much in that time, It kind of speaks about the time through its own form. Yeah. And I find that very fascinating. I just wanted to kind of say that to you.
So internationally, the Berlin Wall had fallen, Tiananmen Square had happened, and one of the reasons that this film was never picked up by any international festival those days. And one of the reasons was that most international festivals were kind of easing out on political cinema. They were looking at very personal stories, at narrative dramatic structures more than anything, and definitely not political. So that also is a reality.
Yeah. And
takes the student now, the favor towards dramatic structure and not so much political film. If you look at more or less, especially for the documentary.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Yeah, he's saying that that thing still remains, especially regarding the form and the narrative. Just moving away from non-linear, that kind of a political non-linear narrative that is still there.
And actually, a lot of people who've seen it more than once do discover different aspects in the film. There's so many. I mean, while shooting, mad things were happening. Knowing Navroze, if anybody knew him, every second day there was a new idea. I mean, him in the film was completely unscripted. So every second day he'd say, okay, I'll do this in this scene. And then Niyogi, who was the sound recordist, he said, I'll do that. So between the two of them, and so which was fine, we kind of worked that in. And so many other things. We were all, those days, very fond of Mad magazine. And I was very fond of Asterix and Obelix. So all kinds of references of that kind also kept on creeping in.
What was Navroze's response after the restoration happened and maybe you did a few screenings?
He went to a couple of screenings in Bangalore. I couldn't go. No, he was always very happy with the film. And so strangely, he would never say anything, even little kind of demeaning about my work. That was not on. Even if he didn't like it, he never said that. So, but this film we all had a great time working on. So
yeah. So we'll take one last question and then.
This is not a question, just a comment. I would like to share that after watching this film, I personally felt that from all of us, you deserve a standing ovation.
So, yeah, let's give him a standing ovation. And it's really an honor to be able to have this year. Also a fitting, I think, tribute to Navroze and your collaboration with them. Thank you.
Thank you so
for
much.
coming. And we just like to present a little token. Shirajuddollah Chitrakar has painted you. Maybe a younger you. So,
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
1 minute, sir. 1 minute. I have missed a very important one. Just one minute. I will not take more than 1 minute. Because you have mentioned it is the question of another viewer, which I had not found out. I wanted to share your view, which you expressed in this film, beautiful film, that the state of affairs in our country or anywhere in the world cannot be basically or radically changed through the system of elections. That is the main central focus you wanted to place in your film. The party which I belong to politically also believes in the same ideology. That much I can express to you.
okay, thank
So
you.
we are in the same boat, brother.
Thank you so
Let's
much.
salute.
I am in the
Let's salute to you.
Okay.
I am kind of in the boat where Modi came from.
Okay, thank you so much.